Welcome! How's everyone doing? Today we'll be starting a new series called Jesting with Jest. We will be working on the jest-audio-reporter, and in this video we'll be adding a debug mode to the project. So let's get started. Now here is the project, and to use it you will be specifying in your Jest configuration in the reporter sessions saying you'll be using jest-audio-reporter along with the default one, because this reporter doesn't do anything except playing some music or playing some tunes when the test is successful or the test fails. So you will still need the default reporter or any reporter of your choice. So to let me undo this because right now I'm in the same project, so that's why I just pointing directly to my compile result. And to use the feature we'll be adding, the user will specify this in the configuration. Basically, the second one, when you add it as an array, the second one is an option, and this option will be passed to the constructor of the reporter over here. So if I do console.log this option with this packages and set it up to like this, this will get printed out. This object will get printed out. So how are we going to do this? So first, let me undo this, and let's go to the index test file and adding a test. So what we're going to do is, with the debug mode enabled, we will log some message for the user to debug if there's anything go wrong. So because what happened is, this project requires you to define a RC file to specify what kind of music you want to play. So for example, when the test suite is passing, it will play any of these, and if failure it will play any of this, and so on. So you might have some bad configuration over here, or you point to a file that doesn't exist, and so the project, this library, will check all that and then print out the message if there's some errors. So go back to here. So what we want to do is to say when debug equals to true, log we'll log some message. Let's just keep it like that, and then we'll go ahead to create the class, and then I call it, say GC. This is just a shortcut during test to create a config file, the global config, and then I'm going to specify debug equals to true here. So how am I going to verify this? Well, first of all, this doesn't work because I am using TypeScript, and here this is strongly typed and it does not have the debug. So let's add that. So now this is not complaining anymore. And however, how do I test this? The problem we are facing is, because this is a constructor and will be used directly by Jest to instantiate this object. So the constructor, there's no way that allow me to inject any dependency. In this case, I wanted to log something, but if I just going ahead and do the log here, say for example, if options debug is true, then I will log some message. I cannot verify it, right? In order to verify it, I need to have a dependency put in. So for example, log equals to let's say do a debug and have an arguments, and then we will say console.log. Let's just keep it like this, like that, right? And then over here I will say this .log .debug, and it will print out. But even with that, over here, since this is a constructor, I cannot go in and say to override this function, because by the time it's too late, it's already constructed, and any message that going to log here will get logged. And we don't want that, because we don't want to pollute the test result when we're running the test. So this is not a good thing to do. So what can we do? This is actually a very hard problem to deal with, because there's no other place that we can inject in something to alter the behavior of this log, except we have to do that through some global variables or some global states. That's the only way to do this. Normally, you should avoid that as much as possible, but in this case, that is the only solution. So what we're going to do is to first create a file called test, and then create some global variable, and then let's move this over there, and then we will say that if well, let's just call it state dot not def, then we will print. If not, we will not print. Right. And let's make that an info. So over here, this can be replaced by that log, and you just import that in. And with that, so let's first take a look at this. So let's start the test. Some error, so because the subject is never used. So what we want to do is, well, on this test, one thing is, even after I do this, I still cannot verify, verify this has taken place. So what I really want to do is to say subject log, and then say enabled will be true. Right. And over here, enable will be true. Oh no, by default it to false. And then over here, if then this dot log dot enables equals to true. And then over here, I just get ahead of myself and saying log dot enabled or this dot enabled, and not that. So you can see that it got printed this hello, and this is not what we want, and what we want here is to change that state dot def equals to true, and then once we change that, it will stop printing. And we want to change this not just in this test, but in all of the tests. But let's keep it over here for now, and then equals to false back here, and then do a try. The reason I'm doing this is because there might be other tests, because I haven't finished yet. There might be other tests that I would like to have the this state set to false to begin with. So if I right now pull this out into the startup script of Jest, I might lose that ability. So for now, let's just keep it like this. Okay, so then that means over here, all I need to test is just saying that when debug is true, log is enabled. Okay, so I can do the same thing for debug is false, log is not enabled. I don't want to say disabled, but although they are the same thing. And in this case, likely I don't need this. Oh, that didn't happen. And what is the problem? So let's take a look at this. First of all, let's fix this back to using straight equal. And the problem with this is because this log instance is a global instance. Because it's a global instance, then this test, when it's specifying debug equal to true, will change the state of that log, which impact this test. So the solution to fix this is to convert this into a function. And then over here, you can return this. And over here, you will say create log. Get rid of, get rid of this, clean it up. Okay. Oh, let's try again. Save all the files. Now that works. So now these two tests pass, and we have made this a log. So we can start talk about what are we going to log. So the first things is, let's see what is available. Right, so let's just print out what we have over here. So the configuration is read into this variable. I already did the work, and so this is the raw RC option, and then it will go ahead and process it and to become this, and that's where as I mentioned, it goes to see if the files actually exist, and it takes some time. So let's print out these two objects and see how do they look like. So this I can't really rely on because this is inside on test, although I think some of them are correct. But what I really want to see is here. So this is the actual file coming in my environment. So this is the raw option, and while this is the processed one. So I want to print out this, but and at the same time I also want to show this information, because it's important for the user to know, oh, where's that option comes in, right? Where's the option comes from. So let's write a function to say log options, and it will pass in the log and it will pass in the raw option and the processed option. So since it's related to log, it might make sense to put it over here, or no, I think this is a good place. So it's have a log object and have a raw object and have the actual option. So I want to log message over here. Of course, right now this is not typed. And let's see if this is typed. This is not, but this one is. But the shape of that was not defined anywhere. However, it's pretty close to this one, but it is actually not. Do I want to take the time to do that? Maybe not at this moment. So let's just keep moving. Pretend I'm working in JavaScript, because I have this information, right? So what is the message? To do that, let's write some text. So I don't know what to call it yet, but log options, and then saying passing a log function in it. And I know that it's only care about this debug function, so I can create a context. No, it's an object. So yes, it's an object of with a function debug, and then what we want to do is we want to track those messages equals to an array, and then this am I at the right place? No, here. Like this. Let's try it out. A, B, C, and it's okay. One error. Need to import it in.
Yatta!
Yep, there we go. So this does work, just a confirmation. So now I can say that log options and put in this context, and then put in the config. While I remove that line, so let's put that back in. Raw option and RC option.
Amai.
So this is the option. This is the raw. So the raw thing, all I need, or all I care is here. I think if I recall correctly, it will merge the two. So I would like to use both. Although because it already did the process, you won't know which entry comes from which file, unlike, say, for example, in the npm config, it will actually shows you which settings come from which files. It gives you more information, but over here right now we don't. But I think it's good enough for now, and so I'm going to assume, because I make the choice, that we'll be only using this config, this configs array. And so this is file 1, and then file 2. Okay. So the second one is the actual process option. And I would like to, well, let's keep it simple. Let's say on switch pass, then it will print, well, let's say RC file 1 to make it a little bit nicer. And then on this switch pass, and then it's a music 1 MP3. Like that. And once it does that, we will be expecting the log to have some messages. And what would those messages look like? For this project, because we likely won't consider localization and things like that, so just comparing the message is good enough. So what we are going to do is add the assert t.deep straight equal this, let's do this as a C, and then c.log.messages would equals to an array of what are we going to print out? The first one will be saying there you go. So what do we got here? In this video, we go through the difficulties of working on the constructor directly, where the constructor have some side effects. When it has a side effect, there's really no other way but accessing to some global states to kind of trick it around to make it work nicely during test. when you're writing your code, when you get a chance, you should not do this. Right? In this case, I have no choice because it is a plug-in system and just using it, so I cannot really change this. And at the same time, this is the only time during the constructor that I can print out the message, because the other times the functions are called when the tests are running, and I don't want to repeatedly printing out those messages. I only want to do that at the very beginning. And so this is the only place, and thus we have to deal with this problem. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will having more videos in this series and other series, and so stay tuned. Bye bye.